Just when you thought Star Wars couldn't become more embarrassing for Disney, or maybe what Disney is doing to Star Wars couldn't become more embarrassing, we have news that the Taika Waititi movie might still be moving forward. Here to talk to me about that is huge Star Wars nerd, Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing well, Wes. I'm doing well. Doing better than Star Wars is, that's for darn sure.
Absolutely. Despite Disney CEO Bob Iger recently implying that all of the company's brands needed to be curated in order to improve their quality, alleged company insiders have claimed Taika Waititi's previously announced Star Wars project is one project that is still moving forward. This confirmation that Waititi is still on track to visit Star Wars was first made public on February 16th, courtesy of The Hollywood Reporter. I'll be honest, after watching Thor Love and Thunder, I don't want to see Taika Waititi do anything with any character or universe I've ever liked in my life. He is perfectly fine doing his humor on his little indie projects, but once he gets into something that people actually like, it's never going to work.
And I was a huge Taika Waititi fan, of his independent films. I'm a big fan of like What We Do in the Shadows. That's one of my favorite movies. I like the TV series just as well. But I think that when he's doing his own stuff like Jojo Rabbit and he can kind of inject his own humor and build out his own universe, then he can make that work. But within the framework of these other IPs where he just comes in and he just disrespects everything about what has come before and just does his own thing, I don't think it works. And that's why we get something that was an abomination like Thor Love and Thunder.
Yeah, Thor Love and Thunder, in my opinion, is the worst MCU thing ever created. It's worse than She-Hulk by about a mile and a half. Disney and Bob Iger are completely unaware of what people think about this movie, the reception of it. There wasn't much good about Thor Love and Thunder outside the first 10 minutes.
And to take a story like Gore the God Butcher, which I'm sure was studio mandated. I'm sure they said, like, you're doing Gore the God Butcher. And then he was like, I don't really want to do Gore the God Butcher. So I'm going to do all this other stupid stuff and all these goat jokes that aren't funny and all this other stuff that, amuses me and nobody else. And then I'll just sort of, we'll just use Gore as a backdrop. And it just tonally, the first 10 minutes and the rest of the film are completely incompatible. It's a mess. The characters are wrong. Everything about it is wrong. It's just really unenjoyable from start to finish. And to hand him a Star Wars project, there's only one Star Wars thing that I could think of that he could do that would work, but they would never do it, and that's tag and Binker dead. And if you're going to do that, why not just hire Kevin Rubio, who wrote it and who directed the short film Troops, which, kind of got him the gig. He had a good sense of, how to do kind of like humor within the Star Wars universe. Obviously something that can't exist within the canon, but something that can kind of be outside of the canon. That's something that they could do, but, they won't do it.
Well, and Star Wars is in such a bad state right now. They really can't do anything original anymore. They're going to have to go to characters that already exist in the movie universe or characters that are really well known, associated with Star Wars, but haven't been introduced in movies. So this dude could end up being responsible for like the debut of Thrawn in Star Wars movies or something like that. Can you imagine Taika Waititi getting his hands on a character as serious, as powerful, and as awesome as Thrawn and just ruining him in about 5 seconds?
Absolutely. And everything would be undercut with a stupid joke, and it doesn't work anymore. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, doesn't work. Every serious moment, they're making jokes while this army that's fighting with them is getting blown to pieces. And it's like, tee-hee, isn't this funny? It's like, no, that guy just got eviscerated. In the context of this universe, that's a living, breathing human being or creature. And you just completely obliterated them and you're making a joke. It ruins the tone of the film. Nothing feels like it has any stakes. And if you give Star Wars to Taika Waititi, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get his sort of take on Star Wars, and it's going to be disrespectful. Not that you can really disrespect the movies any more than they already have been. So they might as well just jump feet first into this dumpster fire that he'd create. But it's, if you want to revive the franchise, if you feel like this is a damaged brand and you need to do damage control, they're making all the wrong decisions.
Per their sources, while Marvel is looking to spend the coming year heavily scaling back, Star Wars is allegedly seeking to do the opposite. According to one Disney insider, not only will the company spend the upcoming year seeking to capitalize on the scheduled releases of Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and The Mandalorian Season 3, but they are also actively working with both Waititi and HBO's Watchmen creator Damon Lindelof to help bring their respective projects to life.
Why don't you just bring in more people who are the destroyer of franchises? Everybody from Bad Robot, Taika Waititi.
Bring Rian Johnson back for his trilogy. His trilogy.
Just kill Just kill Star Wars completely. You know, the best thing that could happen is for them to damage Star Wars to such a degree that they have to sell it off, you know, and they just do so much damage to the company that they have to sell it off, you know, and they have to sell it back to George Lucas for nothing. You know, that would be the best case scenario at this point. It's really depressing. You know, they don't have anybody who seems to be in charge. And this rumor that now they're going to bring back Rey, which you and I talked about, you know, they're going to bring back Rey and try and build the, you know, the next series of movies around
Baby
her.
Yoda.
Yeah, it's so, you know, I understand Bob Iger has to protect his legacy in his mind, and he has to try and repay, you know, but since he takes so much credit for the direction of Star Wars when they brought it in, you know, he's the one who decided not to use Lucas' concepts for the sequel trilogy. He's the one who, you know, was heavily involved in Episode 7, you know, and really, you know, greenlit all this stuff and you know, micromanaged it. He's tied himself to all of the mistakes. And if he can't go back and tinker with it and spend more money and try to reframe those mistakes into something good, which can't be done. It cannot be done. The only way to save Star Wars is to completely disavow the sequel trilogy. None of it happened. You know, kill almost everything that they've done, you know, with Star Wars. No Book of Boba Fett, no, you know, no sequel trilogy. You can kind of keep Rogue One. People liked that. You know, maybe Andor. I hear Andor's good, and that ties into Rogue One, which people like. So maybe you can salvage, you know, some things. But, you know, overall, you just have to cut ties with all of this. But I don't think that his ego is going to allow him to do it.
I guess they're just counting on The Mandalorian Season 3 to be so big, you know, that's going to save Star Wars or whatever. But we've seen the streaming numbers. The Mandalorian does very well for Disney, but it's not really all that competitive with Netflix and some of the other bigger shows on streaming and stuff. So not even The Mandalorian, which is their one big success, is really all that successful. Like, they haven't done anything that has worked since Star Wars was a part of Disney, except for Rogue One, maybe.
That was kind of like lightning in a bottle. They just kind of stumbled. It feels like they fell ass backwards into that being a film that people liked. You know, because the creative on everything else has just been so up and down and so lackluster. And you have Jon Favreau in there, and he's trying to, you know, he's trying to swing for the fences. But every time he, you know, he hits home run, you basically have Kathleen Kennedy come in, jump up like, you know, what's that player's name? No, not in my house. Can't have quality Star Wars in my house, and just smacks it down.
Like Dikembe Mutombo?
Yes, Dikembe Mutombo. Yes. Oh, love that guy.
Why isn't Jon Favreau in charge of all of this? He's associated with Disney. They have a big working relationship. He's done like the live action Jungle Book. He's done Marvel movies. He's done a lot of stuff in Star Wars. He knows what the fans want, and he's successful in spite of Kathleen Kennedy. I don't understand why he just isn't in charge unless he doesn't want to be.
I think that that's probably a huge part of it, is that, you know, he probably does not want to be the head of the studio. He just wants to make things. You know, he doesn't want to deal with every single little thing that goes on. You know, he's just about the projects that he wants to work on. I mean, that's my theory anyway. You know, it seems like he would be a good fit for it, but, you know, if the guy doesn't want the job, he doesn't want the job. The problem is, I don't think anybody wants the job. I think that Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy has become so infested with just toxic people and employees, activist employees, that nobody wants to take on that responsibility, because you would just constantly have people trying to cut your throat. Much like Bob Chapek did at the moment that he came in as Disney CEO. There was just too many people in that company that were trying to, you know, cut his legs out from under him before he could even get running.
Speaking of Bob Chapek, the man who ousted him and basically took his old job back, Bob Iger recently had his Q1 2023 earnings call in which he stated, "We have to be better at curating the Disney and the Pixar and the Marvel and the Star Wars of it all as well. And of course, reduce costs on everything that we make, because while we're extremely proud of what's on screen, it's gotten to a point where it's extraordinarily expensive. We want all the quality. We want the quality on the screen, but we have to look at what they cost." He emphasizes quality so many times, but him greenlighting anything to do with Taika Waititi and Star Wars knows it's just him talking to the investors. He's not actually serious about it.
Well, he's not serious because he keeps talking about the quality. Like, we need to keep the quality there. You don't have the quality. You have been turning out endless trash. You've moved away from family entertainment and you've moved into activist entertainment. You know, as they say, you've gone woke and now you're going broke. You know, these things aren't making money. People don't want to be preached to. People want to be entertained. Stop trying to cram in all this messaging. Stop trying to cram, you know, like that louder and proud, you know, Proud Family, louder and prouder clip that's gone viral. It's like, that's why do you expect people to pay for that? Why do you expect people to pay for Disney Plus if that's what they're going to get? They're going to walk away. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing people walk away from Disney as an entertainment company. And that is a very dangerous place to be in. And until they admit that they have a quality problem, they have an activism problem, they need to basically clean house from top down, and they need to bring back creative people, and they need to bring in creative people that just want to tell entertaining stories. They need to recapture that Disney magic that they used to be good at before Bob Iger was in charge. That's what they need to recapture. And until they do that, it doesn't matter how much you cut budgets. It doesn't matter how much you, refocus and, blah, blah, and all these other corporate buzzwords that he uses. It's not going to work.
So as a Star Wars fan, what do you find more depressing? The idea of Rey, Baby Yoda, Chewbacca, and R2-D2 going on to another adventure to start another trilogy, or Taika Waititi doing his own Star Wars movie, essentially unfettered, just to do whatever he wants?
I don't think that either one is more depressing to me, because I think that largely I'm indifferent now to Disney Star Wars. I just don't care. They can do whatever it is that they want. It's just going to be really hard to get me back. And these two projects aren't going to do it. They're not going to get me back. And I don't think they're going to get most people back. In fact, I think they'll just do further damage to the brand. You'll always have the diehards that'll just, the people that, there's so many people out there that just consume product and then, get excited for next product. They don't do any thinking about it. It's just they shove popcorn into their face and they watch something on the screen and they go, oh boy, that was good. And, wait for the next thing. You're always going to have that small audience. But the general audience has turned on you. They've walked away. They're not interested anymore. And what you need to do is you need to clean house from top to bottom and try and get them back. You need to be able to admit that you made mistakes. And he will not do that. He will not do that because that's his legacy. And if he admits that he's the guy who screwed up Star Wars along with Kathleen Kennedy, what does that say about him, and his ego? You have to be able to have that sort of self-awareness where you can say, you know what, bungled this, should have done better. We're going to reboot. We're going to, completely rearrange the power structure at Lucasfilm, and we're going to start giving you Star Wars that you want. That's the only way to save this brand. Otherwise, it's just another thing that they've got going down the crapper.
A Taika Waititi Star Wars movie is absolutely not going to cut it for actual Star Wars fans. They've had enough, and they're not coming back until they believe that Disney, Lucasfilm are actually committed to putting good Star Wars on the big screen, on streaming, all of that stuff. Taika Waititi isn't going to do it. I have a very good example right here. Aaron and I actually went and watched Thor: Love and Thunder, despite not wanting to, for you guys just to check it out and see how bad it really was. We were both shocked at just how terrible this movie was. If you can't see the video here, there's also a link in the video description.